St. Otto is a proper topic for this year, I would say, and even for next 4 years, because of the anniversary of the mission of St. Otto to Pomerania, and in fact, 2 missions in the year 1124 and 1128. So we have 4 years for celebrating, what is very good for us as a scholar. Pity that he was trying to convert Pomeranians to Christianity and to Islam would limit our founding for celebrating it nowadays, I'm afraid. Never mind. One of important problems we still have with this mission, a detail, but quite important detail, is this walnut tree, holy walnut tree in Szczecin, mentioned as important element of sacral topography of that place in St. Otto's tree vitae. And I want a bit questioned this question. Because the conference topic is understanding Slavic paganism. That means that we have to understand, firstly, our sources. And what I'm going to do, what is quite unusual for me, because I'm always trying to go to the true paganism and speak about pagans and not about missionaries. The problem is that to go to those pagans, the only possibility is to go to the brains of our missionaries. So we have to, as you propose in the topic of the conference, understand them properly, what they had in mind and how they develop stories about problems interesting for us, which are problems of paganism. So, in fact, I would say, talking about sources, narrations, is a business of Staszek Rosik, who already printed a wonderful book, Full Change, focusing in this book, not on mission, but paganism. So we're replacing a little bit with my colleague professor. 3 Leaves of St. Otto, written what is important soon after the mission. First is this Vita Priflingensis, Vita from Prüfening, what I would stress very much because it's important for my walnut tree. It was mistaken the title, of course, not in Bamberg, but in Prüfening. And never mind. So the authors have still possibility to talk with people they participated in the mission, have witness to disposal, and have a big erudition. No doubt about that. When we read all those leaves, there is a plenty of erudition, and they want to show it, I want to say. And they use it because, well, another point we have to remember. They were not native speaker in Latin. They were not Spanish or Italian. They were bloody Germans. So for them to write in Latin, it was a problem, like for me to speak in English. So when they have some ready phrase, they're memorized. And they have enough books to memorize such things. They, of course, like me, were speaking English, using that in Latin, what they already collected in mind. So much about Vitae, who was, however, Otto of Bamberg. Anniversaries give us possibility to concentrate on some event and research better some details. One of those is, who was Otto of Bamberg? And I love very much a very controversial theory. I'm sure Staszek Rosik will be discussing with me against this theory of Johannes Fried, a theory which I really love. Who wanted? You have the information on the screen. Wanted to make of St Otto of Bamberg a person who very well posited within the Society of German Bishops, closely connected to emperors. So that was a man of high status, well-educated man. But looking on his career and thinking about the fact that precisely he was employed to be a bishop, to be a missionary, as bishop, be a missionary to Pomerania. So it suggests that he should have some connections to Poland, and especially to the Duke Boleslav Krzywousty before. And the hypothesis of Johannes Fried that simply our first chronicler, so-called Gallus Anonymous, who wrote his chronicle, in fact, as a kind of, book dedicated to precisely this Boleslav Krzywousty, could be the same person as Otto from Bamberg. So I like this hypothesis, because in this chronicle, when Gallus Anonymous is speaking about Boleslav Krzywousty, the main topic is, in fact, the problem of Pomerania and wars Boleslav Krzywousty is fighting against Pomerania, all the expeditions against them. So it fits together. And of course, the chronicle ends some years before the mission. And that's one problem. Still not solved, and quite important, I suppose. Of course, Tomasz Jasiński and Staszek Rosik, I'm sure, will be against this hypothesis, which I like. Is it true? I don't know, of course. Another, and I'm very glad that you come from Spain here, it is that the mission of St. Otto has some prologue, and it is the mission of some Spanish bishop, Bernard from Spain, already mentioned here in this room today, and fantastic. He is like a beggar going to the town, trying to preach the gospel like apostles did, and Professor Rosik surely could teach us that what is the main topic of Vita of St. Otto is discussion if his sanctity was equal to the sanctity of apostle, or he was only a saint. Poor guy. Never mind. This tried to preach the gospel like apostles did as a beggar and was thrown away. Oh, shitty guy, I don't want to speak with you. Fantastic story, which includes some details important for paganism, but we have one problem. Maybe you help us to solve it, because he appears in those leaves only. And to make of him historical person instead of a literary character, we need some charter, some other source from outside confirming his true existence. He has to play in those leaves some role. What is suspicious, but okay. I don't want to say he not existed. Maybe, but we have to prove that. In Leaves of St. Otto, we have obviously plenty of borrowed motifs. Like this, we heard about in previous presentation concerning this Pitonissa. And I was trying to speak about that in one of my paper, and what we can find. We may find, and I will be taking it a little bit more into consideration, some borrowings from Sulpicius Severus Vita Sancti Martini, but it was noticed already by Hedepin. There is quite an important influence from Venerable Bede. That's one authority. Everybody is reading Venerable Bede in Middle Ages, of course. And in the descriptions of the apostasy in Szczecin, what is going there? There is obviously a trace of lectures of Venerable Bede and this story about Redwald worshipping on one and the same altar or on two altars, never mind. The story in St Otto's Vitae is a bit different enough to discuss a lot about that. But influence of Bede is obvious. Another question is about the temple in Gützkow. Otto order to destroy the pagan temple. The pagans try to bribe here. And he is answering almost like trying to discuss with Venerable Bede and his quotation for instruction for Abbot Mellitus that, well, try to change into churches, pagan temples, if are built correctly, and if people have custom to go there, just change it. And St. Otto is like this, almost like he beginning a discussion with Venerable Bede. What is the connection between Christ and Diabolos? No, destroy that. Well, it was built in cost of 300 talents. The most funny borrowing I suspect I found, it is a very thin problem, is possible inspiration from Ammianus Marcellinus. The main temple of Triglav was built with outside inside, which were decorated with sculptures protruding from walls. There were effigies of people's beards, wild animals, pictures with all their features so accurately that they seemed to live and breathe. Of course, I interpreted that as a kind of wood carving in style of Scandinavian decoration, precisely of the same time, 12th century. Look on portals to Urnes Church. Look on portals to Vank Church. Some of you have possibility to see in Karpacz, because the church from Vank was transferred to Karkonosze in the 19th century. So I say in the description, it is speaking about something like that. But in this description, sounds something what was for me suspicious, because I had a feeling that I remember those words. And indeed, look, Herbert and Ammianus Marcellinus. By Ammianus Marcellinus, it is a description of hieroglyphs in pyramids. But some small details suggest that Herbert knew, or at least once, have in hands Ammianus Marcellinus, or somebody making extracts from Ammianus Marcellinus. And that's quite funny, because the knowledge of Ammianus Marcellinus in the Middle Ages is quite rare. Never mind about some other place in mentioning pyramids in Szczecin, which means simply some logberg or mount of which somebody is presiding the thing, the assembly. However, somebody who was describing it had some interest into Egypt and pyramids, using such a strange word, what seems to me to support my hypothesis about Ammianus Marcellinus. The most funny thing is, I'm finally, for the end, going to touch my proper topic. It's 5 minutes. I hope I manage. It's the tree. During the first mission, St Otto mission, we have oak tree. But in addition to that, in description of the second mission in the year 28, appears arbor nucum, walnut tree, how it is interpreted. In the story appears borrowings from Sulpicius Severus. The sense of the story is different, but the wording is absolutely the same. Look, Vita Sancti Martini and Vita Priflingensis. Of course he was using, everybody knows that. But what about the walnut tree? After this apostasy, Otto comes back and is trying to bring Stettinians back to the order. And we read, there was man at that time who owned a nut tree, to which the stupid pagan people came as if to a sanctity. There was no way to make him allowed to cut the tree, especially that he values it as an object of cult and had profits from it. Sorry. The bishop strongly reprimanded him that the trunk had nothing to do with religion, and he should trust God whom he served, and that the tree should be cut down because it is devoted to demons. Vita Priflingensis, Ebbo is adding a holy well to this topography, and of course, Otto tried to cut the tree. Then, unexpectedly, the guardian of the tree come, standing behind God's servant, tried to reach his holy head with a picksack, and finally he failed, etc., etc. Controversy ended with a compromise. The Stettinians convince bishop to allow him to keep the tree. There is one problem. Existence of holy tree with well and some construction around is absolutely credible, but not as the holy walnut tree because of ecology. Of course, today, even platans are, since 19th century, growing quite well in Szczecin, but it is too far to the north. Never mind. Archaeologists found in archaeological excavations some, but very few shells of walnut. Never mind, it could be brought as cargo. But the most important for me element is philological, because all text speaks only about arbor nucum, not use the word corylus, what is hazel, or juglandis, walnut. The term is, however, absolutely similar to German Nussbaum and others, similar, bit less similar, but medieval. What's more, it seems that this term arbor nucum concentrates quite well doing digital search in Monumenta Germania Historic, in Bavaria and around. And in Bavaria, there is a Prüfening, for instance. Walnut is quite possible. Let's go to Vita Priflingensis and the tradition how the cloister in Prüfening was established. And it is a story about miracle. St Otto, after he already erected a cloister monastery in Ora, is going from some gathering of bishops in Regensburg and traveling back, stop in some beautifully located place on a meadow, fall asleep in tent, and had an oracular dream with staircase of Jacob, suggesting him to erect another cloister, precisely at that place. And this is in Prüfening. Hoc accedebat in loco, in quo due arbores, 2 walnut trees, antiquitus consiste hodieque consistunt, where 2 walnut trees up to date exist. And even the people still heard bells ringing from the heaven at that place. This same story appears in Vita Erminoldi, which is written later. But in that source, which is written later, those duas arbores nucum, tunc ornaverunt faciem campi eiusdem, existed before, not now. However, conclusion, I have still 1 minute. My conclusion is, in Prüfening existed 2 walnut trees, confirmed in Vita Prüflingensis, Vita Erminoldi, as extremely important element in the foundation story of the monastery, as tangible element. Let's see our founding father sleeping under those trees, got the message from the God to erect monastery here. What means that every holy tree Otto may meet should be presented as a walnut tree, because St. Otto means walnut tree. So in Szczecin should exist a holy pagan tree, of course, but it was rather not a walnut tree. Is it?
Thank you very much, Professor Słupecki, for a very rich presentation that concerns a very important problem always we have with testimonies of chronographers and missionaries. A lot of things can be said about that, and I guess more specifically about the walnuts of Otto. We will pass to the questions. We have 5 minutes, I think. Yes, 5 minutes, more or less. Yes.
I wonder, and please excuse my lack of knowledge, but why would a bishop go for a mission? Was he being punished, or was that usual?
It seems that he who was, of course, I'm not specialist in missions. I'm for paganism, but it seems that he was already in some problems after the death of his former patron emperor, if I could remember. But perhaps, Staszek, you can say something more. And if we agree to this hypothesis of Johannes Fried, then all puzzles fits very good together.
Not all.
But good, even better. But then we have a person familiar with all those German milieu, ecclesiastic milieu and imperial milieu, that actually trying to find a better place from one side. From another side, knowing. It seems that Otto never mind, was before in Poland and get in touch with Piasts and was accepted well. So he know the country, he know a little bit, surely, the language. I'll touch, he had dolmetschers. So he had some ideas that dolmetschers and local assistants fluent in language, was there. That's the difference to Saint Wojciech Adalbert, who is fluent in Czech, what means at that time that he was fluent in Polish. Okay. And if he was the same person as Gallus Anonymous, so he would be a perfect person for that test. So much about that. What I know, I'm sure Staszek, who is historian of the church, I'm archaeologist of pagan, will know more, and I'm sure not agree with Fried and me.
So, thank you very much, Leszek, first of all, for your excellent interpretation that shows that the text as a whole is the world, and we can find some tools to interpret the part from the second book of the Vita in the first. So I think this intratextual relations are very important in the interpretations. So sometimes when we have only a few lines from the source in analyzing the text, it's not enough. So your analysis was brilliant and very, for me, it's an inspiration to go further. But I should say that
not the criticism, yes.
No. It's wonderful, and I should stress that when I started my interest in Slavic religion, Słupecki was the first author I read, and it's still the same. You can see the footnotes in this book. It's about 20% of footnotes is with Słupecki. So you know, but of course, I could not agree with this Johannes Fried's hypothesis about Otto of Bamberg, that he is Gallus Anonymous, because we are in Prague. This is the first important problem. Otto of Bamberg was the friend of Bohemia, was the friend of Prague. And when we open Gallus Anonymous, we can read about insidious Bohemians, crafty Bohemians, snaky Bohemians. So you know that it's impossible to have two minds in the same story. So this is the only one argument for now. I could find some other, but it's not the time for this discussion now. But I polemize also with Johannes Fried about it was in Speyer in maybe 15, 16 years ago. So I started from the beginning this polemic, and I'm still in the same point. I could find some other arguments, but what is very nice in this story about trees, because in Vita Preflingensis and in Ebo's Vita of St Otto, we have only one holy tree. It's Arbor Nucea, so it's nut tree. But in Herbert we have two. In the second book, so in the description of the first trip Otto to Baltic is also this, we can say, doubled motif of the tree. What for? And this was the idea of this book. It was my habilitation dissertation, this Conversio Gentis Pomeranorum, to find the key how to interpret the play, we can say, between these authors, and especially why why Herbert using Ebo, we can say, with scissors, in fact, and copying some parts, but to comment some places in different way. What was he going to say? And when we read Vita Preflingensis, the most important is during the first mission of Otto and the first, in the second book of this Vita, is the first mission described, is to converse Pomerania, and in the second book is to create church bishopric, in fact, in Pomerania. So it's the finish of the third book. And Ebo continued this idea, but enlarged the second trip using motif of gens Uznoim, so people of Uznam, which is to say, how to say, it is the problem of enlarging the fame of the apostle. So he have converted two peoples, not only Pomeranians. And Herbert was not so keen on presenting missionary activity as the best activity of Otto. He presented him first of all as a founder of monasteries, and in this context, he tried to change the idea of Ebo, and stressed that the first mission was really the most important, not the second. And I think this is also the problem of double trees in this moment, because he needs to stop, we can say, the impression of Ebo's narration to create that really the first mission was the most important, and this is why the oak tree is very important in this story, because the first mission was completed with such motifs, which were in two missions in Ebo narration. So you can see the methods I worked in this conversion with this Pomeranian. So sorry that I need so many minutes to explain, but it's difficult also in English for me.
Thank you very much. We don't have time to continue with commentaries or other questions. We will keep the others for the break, and we will. Yes, I think we don't really have the time. We will keep it for the lunch break, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, because we are already quite late, 15 minutes late.
Thank you, Staszek, for your comment, and this about the fact that Gallus Anonymous. I won't stress he was not Polish. Doesn't like Czech. It's in fact true. I will reconsider this, but generally speaking, it seems there is nothing private in my love to Johannes Fried. I met him only once in my life, and we didn't change one single word, and he seems to be a very typical German professor. But I really appreciate his brilliant hypothesis, which I suppose are a bit underestimated in Poland. What is that? I love it. Anyway, so that's Sinone vero e buon trovato.